We are just really embarrassed to call ourselves Star Wars fans because of this whole reaction. It's just gotten so ridiculous. Whenever you go online, all you just see are nothing but fanboys just complaining about any kind of change in anything related to George Lucas. And this doesn't apply to just Star Wars. I mean, this will also apply to
Transformers, Sonic the Hedgehog.
And if you want to even get more related to Lucas, how about the most recent Indiana Jones?
Crystal Skull is not that bad a film. I mean...
Let's stay on target. Stay on target.
Stay on target. What was it? The Fanboys, and speaking of Fanboys, you know, there's the film Fanboys that I'm sure a lot of people may have heard of or seen. Hilarious film about a group of Star Wars fanboys in 1999 who try to sneak into Skywalker Ranch and steal a print of Episode 1 before it's released, before a friend of theirs dies of cancer.
Which we should both say, you know, as Star Wars fans, we both saw this movie, we loved it.
Yeah, it was hilarious. Lucas enjoyed the movie.
If you want to laugh yourself silly as a Star Wars fan, go ahead and get this one. There's a lot of good Star Wars humor.
It's a great homage to Star Wars, and it has that great, hilarious punchline at the end where the movie's about to start and they're in the theater and they're like, hey guys, what if the movie sucks? That's hilarious. And the recent issue of Star Wars Insider, number 128, has an article by the director of that film, and the article is him talking about Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and the whole article is just about that movie, and its release and all of that.
I mean, if there's no way to find it online, I can basically give you the cliff notes of it. What he's basically saying about
before we get into that, he's just talking about the movie itself and its release and the hype surrounding it and all that. He likes the movie. He loves it. He gets it. He gets what Phantom Menace is supposed to be. Is it the best Star Wars film ever made? Far from it. But it's a starting point.
Yes. And I think that what his point in that article was, is that we were basically relearning the entire story of Star Wars, basically from the beginning. Let's think about it from here. Let's think of all the story points that were mentioned in the first three movies, 4, 5, and 6, that were completely unanswered. You know, what was the
Clone Wars?
What were the Clone Wars? What was the Galactic Republic? What was where did the Stormtroopers come from? How did Anakin Skywalker turn to the dark side and become this ruthless right-hand man to Emperor Palpatine?
Exactly. I mean, you know, for many years we had assumed that Anakin was like a Han Solo-esque Jedi, or that the Clone Wars was a battle between Jedi and Mandalorians. Those were just assumptions. Now, the prequels come out, and because it doesn't meet what people had expected, then suddenly it's wrong in their eyes. And they're not that, yes, there's stuff wrong with them.
Yes.
Hayden Christensen and...
Probably not the best choice to have been Anakin Skywalker. We will admit that.
Yes. But, you know, there's some good stuff in there. I mean,
Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn in Episode 1 was terrific. I mean, and as well,
And despite what Red Letter Media, his comparison of Qui-Gon Jinn being an alcoholic, and Red Letter Media, he's a hack. I mean, yeah, I've seen his Episodes 1 and 2 reviews, and he does make some very good points. He's a very smart guy, but he just wants the utmost realism and plausibility in his films. You know, in his Star Trek Generations review, he was bringing up the most mundane points. He was bringing up stuff like, oh, well, the transporter room is supposed to be on that side of the ship, not on that side.
Trust me, we're gonna...
and like, you Picard carelessly drops and breaks an artifact that in the series he received and said he would cherish always. Really? He makes these criticisms over a fucking prop
Now,
set locations?
Believe us, as we go on with our own series, we're gonna talk about some of these other organizations or franchises that have these so-called have the so-called fanboy element. We're looking specifically at Transformers, Sonic, Star Trek, and one that I'm probably going to look at, the WWE.
Yeah, that's our Otaku Jock for you.
Yes.
And if George Lucas was really destroying this, then there wouldn't be a fan. You wouldn't be seeing art everywhere. You wouldn't be seeing merchandise everywhere.
You wouldn't be seeing games like The Force Unleashed and The Old Republic being released to the market en masse with all this hype surrounding it.
And, the whole...
Not to mention as well, you just wouldn't see... I know there are people that don't like the series, but you wouldn't have the series The Clone Wars on TV, which I think we'll both admit that Clone Wars movie, that should not have been released theatrically.
That shouldn't have been a theatrical.
That should have been a 2-hour special on Cartoon Network to set the table.
Agreed. And, the prequel sucks attitude.
God, go sit.
No, and the whole prequel suck thing, the prequels have a fan base.
They have, and
it's a younger fan base, but I'm sick and tired of this whole attitude, you never saw it when it was written. I saw it before you were even born. I hate it.
What happened?
So, basically the fanboys feel that because they're older than someone, then that means that their opinion is right.
This isn't exclusive. This is not exclusive to just Star Wars. Like we said, we're going to go through some. We're going to go through some other franchises and other things to explore that. But it's really just one of those things. People, it doesn't belong to you.
Exactly.
It belongs to George Lucas. Whatever Lucas wants to do with this, short of completely changing the plot, or God forbid, saying that he wants to remake Star Wars, which, let's face it, that's the whole big trend in Hollywood these days.
Yeah.
Short of that, he can do whatever the hell he wants with the franchise, because this is his creation, and you know what? There was limited technology in 1977. He's doing it his way now here in 2011.
Yeah, but a lot of people, like to argue that people like to insist, well, George Lucas should pull back his budget, do things the old way. I mean, no one is ever going to just pull back their own budget.
No, it's short of interference, and let's also not forget facts, people. Star Wars is an independent film.
Yeah.
It has 20th Century Fox to this, but at its core, this is something that he completely did on his own. This franchise was his creation. This whole universe, all the creatures, everything like that. This is all coming from his head.
Yeah, and the studios were all, like, this will never work. Everybody working on the film was like, this will never work.
I mean, let's look at comparison. Let's look at another popular franchise from right along that time, Planet of the Apes. We saw a documentary on that. Regardless of the massive success of the very first movie and the subsequent sequels, the budgets just kept getting smaller for that film because the studios didn't want to put that much money into sequels at the time.
It's just a big shame what people are demanding of Hollywood. Yes, Hollywood is capable of some very dumb decisions. George Lucas is not Hollywood. And I had a point I was going to bring up. Forgotten what it is right now, but
it's just gotten to this point where, honestly, and I'm going to use it, and as much as I hate to use politics in this, and I know I'm going to get some flack, and you know what? If there's any flack in this, we're gonna freaking block your comments about this one comment in particular. It's gotten to the point with the Star Wars fan base, the way that it's gotten to with the Tea Party here in America.
Exactly.
I have become so embarrassed to call myself a Star Wars fan because of the fanboys, almost at the same time that I've sometimes become embarrassed to call myself an American because of the Tea Party.
Sheesh.